What if you never had to go to the grocery store again for greens, herbs, and vegetables? Imagine harvesting everything right from your home. It'd be fresh, clean, and we're talking 12 months of the year. Today we're gonna find out exactly how much it would cost to make that happen for a family of 4. To pull this off, we need to figure out a few things. The first would be, how many plants do we need in rotation at any given point? Also, what kind of hydroponic or aeroponic setup would that take? How much would it cost, not only for the equipment, but also for the electricity, water, and nutrients? I might have gone a bit overboard, but I built an app to help us visualize this. So let's open it up and start a new plan. So let's do a 4-person household, and we're gonna choose what we wanna harvest each week. This part is customizable. Your family might prefer different crops, but it'll create a realistic baseline. All right, so let's say each week we wanna harvest 3 heads of lettuce, 2 bunches of spinach, 1 kale, 1 basil plant. We'll do 3 bok choy, 1 head of broccoli, 1 head of cauliflower, 3 bell peppers, some chilies, 1 cabbage, 1 eggplant. We'll do 3 zucchini, 1 tub of cherry tomatoes, and let's do 1 pound of snap peas. Add to that 1 package of celery, 1 pound of strawberries, and we'll do 5 cucumbers. Great, now we're gonna generate the plan. This is where it gets interesting. The app shows a growing timeline. So as we move through the week, we can see when each crop matures and when the first harvests actually begin. So by week 32, we've hit full capacity. That means we've got 376 plants growing at one time. From that point on, it's just a steady, perpetual harvest. The early weeks are a little slow, but the system starts producing really regularly, pretty fast. Lettuce takes about 12 weeks to mature, but once it does, it becomes part of this rotating cycle of constant harvest. By the time the system stabilizes, you're pulling in a weekly supply of fresh greens, tomatoes, basil, strawberry, all on autopilot. Now let's talk numbers. How much would it actually cost to build and run a setup like this at home? Using the Grow Planner app that I built, the cost for a system that can feed a family of 4 comes to just over $3,000. That's gonna include all the equipment, the towers, the pumps, the lights, the water reservoirs, everything you need to actually get started. For this particular experiment, I'm assuming we're growing in our own home, so rent is free. Power here in Manitoba is about 9 cents per kilowatt hour. Water is roughly half a cent per liter. And labor, well, that's us, and we're doing it in our homes, so we're gonna call that free. Once the system is running, it's surprisingly affordable. Power for the lights and pumps comes to about $22 a month. Water, thanks to how efficiently these systems recycle it, is only around $18 a month. The big one is nutrients, which costs about $260 per month, but I'm sure if you purchase it in bulk, it would bring that cost down. But remember, that's for a full setup producing hundreds of plants continuously. Here's the cool part. The system produces roughly 179 heads of lettuce a year. When you add in everything else, basil, tomatoes, bok choy, strawberries, zucchinis, cauliflower, broccoli, everything, the total annual harvest value, if you compare it to what they would cost at a grocery store, comes to conservatively around $16,000 worth of groceries. And you're only spending about $300 a month to keep it running. That's a great return. The biggest limitation isn't really the cost, it's actually the space. For a system like this, you need about 300 square feet. Aeroponic towers and NFT systems are pretty compact, but fruit and vegetables take a bit more room with their setup. Still, compared to what you can grow, it's an incredible trade-off. I'll drop a link below for the Grow Planner if you wanna play around with your own setup. Maybe you've got a family of 5, or maybe it's just you. You can build a custom setup to see how much it would cost for your own perpetual harvest based on what crops you would want. Beyond the numbers, it's just amazing having fresh produce on hand all the time. No pesticides, no grocery runs, no plastic bags. It's just pure homegrown food that you can harvest anytime. Basil for pesto, bok choy for ramen, cilantro for curry, all at your fingertips. It's fresher, healthier, and way more rewarding than anything you can buy. So let's take a look at the cost breakdown. Where does that $3,000 actually go? The biggest startup investment is the growing systems themselves. We need 2 aeroponic towers, each capable of growing 50 plants. That's perfect for things like lettuce, bok choy, and basil. Together they support 100 growing sites and they come in around $1,200. Next, we've got the NFT systems, and that's short for nutrient film technique. And that's ideal for greens that prefer a continuous supply of nutrients and water. That setup supports another 100 plants and it costs about $800. Then for your larger crops like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, zucchinis, you'd have 3 deep water culture systems with a combined capacity of 108 fruiting vegetables. Those add another $700 roughly to the total. And then once you add in the grow lights, the pumps, timers, plumbing, and nutrient reservoirs, the full setup comes to about $3,000. That's a surprisingly low entry point for a year-round supply of greens, herbs, and vegetables. Okay, maybe that was a lot of math for some people. Let's pause and let's have a taste of what this system produces. So today we're gonna go from tower to table. We're making homemade pesto, seared halloumi cheese, roasted tomato and garlic, fresh lettuce from the hydroponic system too, with a balsamic glaze on toasted rye. It's gonna be good. If you've ever dreamed of growing your own food year-round, then why don't you hit subscribe and join me on my journey, seeing what it looks like for our family and beyond that. I'll see you next time.